Hello everyone, this is Michael from Modern Demo Recording Studios, and this is my first video on Pro Tools tutorials. So this week, what we're going to go over is setting up a session to maximize your efficiency when recording. I'll also go over basically busing, routing, sends, and just general organization for your tracks, and then finally how to make it a template in order to basically use the same setup every time you record. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off with some just some mono audio tracks. Now I usually like to start with 15. Okay. Now what this allows me to do is 8 for drums, 1 for bass, 2 for left side guitar, 2 for right side guitar, and 2 for vocals, 1 for vocal, and 1 for backing vocal or double vocals. And I'll add to that as I'm going along, usually. But yeah, this is just how I like to start. Now, the next thing I'll do is I'll add in a master fader. Okay, so we go down just to master fader. We add one of those, and I'll also add in 3 mono aux inputs and 7 stereo aux inputs. Okay, so this is just how I'll start things. Okay, you can feel free to add as few or as little as you like, but if you're following along, this is how many we're going to work with. Okay, now first thing I'll do before I do anything else is move my master right to the end. Okay, now the reason why I do this is I like to work in a way that basically it flows from left to right. So I'll have all my say my drums on the left, and then it will go my bass, guitars, vocals. Now the reason why I do that is because the drums form the basics of the track, the basis of the track, you know, that the raw percussion of it, and then the bass will thicken that up, the guitars will go on top of that, and then the vocals will finally be the icing on the cake. And I like to flow from left to right, so when you've got it in that order and then it's bussing over to your master fader, you know that that's last. Okay, so it just makes sense when you've got it going from left to right rather than all over the place. So this is just how I like to set it up. Now what I'll do is I'll go through and I'm just going to name all my tracks. Okay, so I've named all my tracks now. Okay, and it looks pretty boring. Not much going on here. So what I like to do is I go through and I find all the instruments that are the same. Okay, so don't move any of these yet. And I'll go up to here. Okay, so it's just shift. So you start again. So you click here, shift, and then click on your final one. And then double click down here and just choose a color. I like to choose yellow for drums. I don't know why. It's just I know that yellow's drums. And if you want to turn the color stripping on or off, just click this little button here. So that will turn it from this sort of just the top and bottom to the full track. Okay, and then I'll turn my bass into like a, I actually clicked on the track, Turn my bass into, I like to choose bright colors, so I'll go like a nice purple. And then my left guitars, I like to make a nice bright pink. My right guitars, I like to choose another bright color. I might go for a nice green. And my vocals, I'll usually go a light blue. Okay, that way I just know where everything is. I know what tracks I'm working with, and it just looks nice. So now what I'll do is I'll go through and I'll move my auxiliary tracks to right next to where those tracks are. So my snares will go there, and actually I'll change the color afterwards. And then I'll grab my guitars left, put that there, guitars right, toms. Okay, now make sure when you're doing your, this is why I've made the stereo tracks. Okay, that's why it was 3 mono and 7 stereo, because the toms, your overheads, your drums, your parallel compression, your guitars, reverb and delay, they're all stereo, okay? Now the reason why I do this is so I can pan, okay? Because it still allows me to pan rather than having just a mono track. I can adjust them both in the stereo field, and I can still tweak them just in a single thing. So if I get these down to a nice volume, I can adjust it. You know, the toms in the mix. Move my overheads. There, my drums to the end. My parallel compression I put after my drums. Guitars after guitar right. Reverb delay I leave there. Okay. Now I'll usually go through and I'll make all my drum ones a nice orange, just because it's darker than my bright yellow, but it's still in that sort of theme. Now the reason why I go darker is so I know that they're the buses, okay? So I know that they're not audio tracks, and I know that they're auxiliaries. Now I choose this to be roughly the same colour, but a bit darker, so I might go that. Guitars right, I'll choose a nice gross green. Guitars as a whole, I'll usually make it like a nice purple, and I always leave my reverb and delay as green. Now, it looks really nice, which is a great thing about setting it up like this. You just get a nice feel about it all. It looks pleasant to work with, and you know you want to be in the mix. Okay, that's one of the reasons why I set it up like this. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to go over these auxiliary inputs. For those of you who don't know what an auxiliary input is, it's basically it's not the audio track per se, but it's sort of like a space where you can send a copy or route your actual audio tracks through, and you can adjust them in certain amounts, or you can basically send a lot of tracks to one spot. Okay, and that won't make much sense until you see it in action. So what you do is you go through and you choose which ones are going to be sent where. Okay, now I like to go through my smaller buses first. So I go through my snares, and you go to this section here. Now my input I leave as is, but my output I change to a bus. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll go through. Some of them are already named for me, which is quite helpful. But I'll go through and I'll make it's a mono bus here, so I'll make a mono. I choose a mono bus for this. You right click and just rename. So I'll just make it snare, and we'll bus this one to the snare as well. And then you set the input of this one to the snare bus. Okay. Now the reason why you do this is because, say you've got your top snare mic, your bottom snare mic. Okay, you may not record with two mics. Okay, this is just how I do it. You have I don't know, maybe you want more crack out of your snare, and you'll get that with your bottom snare mic. So you want, you know, maybe the levels come out when you're mixing like this. Okay, and you got a really nice overall tone for the snare. You've EQ'd it beautifully or whatever, but in the mix, the snare it's not coming through properly, and you just want to adjust them. You want to increase the volume of your snare, but you don't want to tweak these individual faders. Okay? This is what this is for. Okay? I can turn both the tracks all the way down or all the way up in one hit. It also means that I can compress and EQ them at the same time, which can save on a lot of processing power. Okay, so that's what that's for. Your toms are the same. Okay, so I'll go in, see if I made a toms one. Nope. So I go through and I set it to a stereo bus, because that's what the toms bus is. Change that to toms. Set this one to toms as well. Now you can set it to left and right, but I prefer it to so this is your left and right here. Now you can set it to those if you want. The only problem is you won't be able to adjust your pan. Okay, so that's the beauty of setting it like this. And then just set your input for your toms as your toms. And we'll do the same for our overheads. Now again, you can set it to left and right. I personally prefer to do it like this. Just because I like to have my pan controls here, but that's just personal taste. I just prefer to work like that. It's perfectly fine to send them to your left and right if you want. Room we'll leave as is for now. Drums, parallel compression we'll leave. Actually, no, we'll go over this. Okay, so we've got our drums. Okay, now we want to make a drum bus. Okay, which has already been created for me conveniently from another session. And basically what this will do is, say you've got a nice overall balance of your drums, your snare, your kick, everything's just, sounds good. It sounds like a drum kit. But say it's too loud or too quiet in the mix. I can adjust my drums up and down. Okay, that's what that's for. Okay, really, really handy. So now we'll go through and we'll send our drums over to our drum bus. Okay, so don't send these because they're routed to my snare. So I send my bus inputs here. I send those over to my drum bus, like so. So at the end of it, you should be able to go through, and they should all be either routed to a bus or to the drum bus here. Now the next thing you want to do is go through your guitars, do the same thing. Now I've got a guitar bus here, but what I really want to do is I want to set a mono bus. Okay, now you can do it this way and just route them all to your left guitar, your right guitar, or whatever, and that's perfectly fine. Okay, that works. So maybe we'll try that for now. Go left guitar, and then set the input of this one to your left guitar. And then we'll set these to our right. And the input of this one to our right. Now you may be thinking, why have I got another bus for my guitars? Now the reason why is because usually, okay, you may not, but most people, and I do, they record 2 guitar tracks, okay? Now this will thicken up your mix, which we'll go over when we talk about recording techniques, but when you've got this, you want to bus that to your left guitars, because you'll blend those in with each other, and then it's just more convenient, if they're already blended, to be able to adjust just all your left guitars in one hit, and you can EQ them easily just here, instead of wasting processing power. And you'll do the same for your right guitars, but then having this allows you to adjust your guitars, like both your left and right guitars, all in one hit, which is really handy, because if you've got the levels between them correct, it's good just to be able to adjust the guitars up or down if you just want to check something. So what I'll do now is I set the input of this to my guitars, okay? Now, usually I prefer to not set it like this. I'll usually set this so I have a separate bus across here, and then I'll have another bus down here. Now this personally is my favorite way of doing it. It seems to work the best for me. The other way doesn't seem quite logical, but I've seen people do it. And I'll just name this guitar bus, okay? And then what I do is I set the output of my my buses here just over to my guitar bus. Okay, now you can set it to left and right if you want, just like we have before. But we're going to send it to the stereo, just so we still have these pans. Now my vocals, I'm not going to do anything with them yet. If I were to, I'd add the auxiliary later. And then I'll just set my reverb and my delay just to a new bus. Okay, so now I've got a reverb and delay bus here, which we'll use to do sending and delays later, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. Now I want to come back to this parallel compression. Okay, this is something that you will most likely use a lot of. Okay, again, this is something I'd go over in another video, but for now, if you know what it is and you're going to use it, then this is the way to set it up. Basically, you go over to your drums bus, because everything's already routed through here, and you click on this sends box. And we're just going to send it to a new bus. Okay, just got one here. I'm just going to rename it para comp, and then I'm just going to adjust the level just to default to 0. And what this allows us to do is to send a copy, like it's not going to be rerouted, it's going to be a copy of the track over to this bus here. So it will sound immediately that like 2 lots of it playing at the same time, okay? But you can adjust how much you're sending across, and you can adjust how much is being output. The idea of this is then we can chuck a compressor on here, compress the hell out of it, and get a really punchy tone and blend it in with the raw tracks, just to get some extra punch. And a lot of famous engineers do that. So that's just how you set that up. And then what I'll also do is I'll usually send my drums, sometimes parallel compression. I won't right now, because I'd usually decide in the mix if I'm going to. I'll send it over to my reverb, like so. And I'll send all my guitars, which is convenient because I've got them all here. I'll send them over to the reverb channel as well. Okay. And sometimes I'll send the delay. Okay, so I'll show you just for example. My delay's up here, and I'll send the delay as well. And I can adjust how much is being sent. Now, the idea of this is so I can basically make all the tracks sound like they're sitting in the same space. Okay, so you record really close mic, everything sounds, you know, it doesn't have much life or any ambience to it. The idea is you send it to this reverb track with a really wet reverb plugin, and that will basically allow them all to sound like they existed in the same space. And the beauty of the auxiliary means that I can adjust how much is being sent and how much is being output at any time in the song. So say, you know, during the verse, you know, I don't have much, and then at the chorus I need to vamp it up a bit. I can do that with automation. Okay, which is another topic for another time. That's the reason why we have them. Okay, instead of having a plugin sitting on here, which is constantly going to be at the same level, so it will constantly be really reverby or not very reverby. Say you want some more, that's why you send it over to this reverb channel or the delay channel. Okay, and that means you can adjust the amount as you're going along rather than having separate tracks for separate amounts of delay or reverb. So that's our track all set up now. It's looking really good. You know, I can work with this. I know where everything is. I can adjust my inputs accordingly as I'm going along, as I'm recording. But everything's set from left to right. I've got my drums, my bass, and my guitars, and then I've got my vocals. So it literally goes from pans from left to right. So I've got my overheads left, and then my right hand side, you know, my left guitars, right hand guitars, like that. And I just find it easier when it's all set like that. Now the master fader, this will allow me to basically adjust the volume of all the tracks in one hit. So, you know, say I want to basically mute everything, I can do this, and then you can vamp it up or whatever, and you can add some EQ or compression on here just to, you know, just to check your tracks for different things or to tweak everything all at once. But I usually leave that to mastering stages. Sometimes I'll put it in just to see how it will sound pre-mastering, or just how everything sounds with a bit of compression, just to glue it all together. But yeah, that's essentially how I route all my sessions. And this way, when it's all set up like this, it means that you don't have to fiddle around with it later. And when you're recording, you know it's all going to be sent to the right spots. Now, say you're going to use this particular setup to record frequently. You go up here and just go save as template, okay? And we'll just name this something, so I know rock band, okay? And you can save it to whichever category you like. And it means that, say you're going to record a rock band, and it's going to be, you know, roughly the same inputs or whatever. You can use this as basically as a template. And every time it will load up this exact session, all the colors, all the routing already done for you. And it's just really, really handy. So anyways, that's my workflow. I hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope you've learnt a lot from it. Again, this has been Michael from Modern Demo Recording Studios. You can check my Facebook page out in the link below. Also my website. If you wish to hire me for recording or anything, please note I am based in Australia. Just so you know, you don't get on there and try to book it and realise you actually live in a different country. Yeah, so just, if you enjoyed the video, if it was of any help to you whatsoever, please hit like. Please let your friends know if they need some help with Pro Tools or anything. Share these videos. Subscribe to my channel if you want some more videos every week or every fortnight, however often I end up deciding to do them. And just drop a comment on some feedback. Just let me know what you thought of the videos and whether they were any help to you at all. And just let me know if there's something I can improve. I may ramble a bit too much, but I just try and fit a lot into my videos. And yeah, just head over to my Facebook, maybe drop a comment there, just say that, you saw my videos or whatever, and, give that a like. So yeah, thanks guys. Hopefully, I'll see you all in a week or so's time when I make my next video. So yeah, this has been Michael from Modern Demo Recording Studios. Have a great day.